I'm Nick.
I'm Erin.
And this is Knocked Outdoors.
Today we're here to talk to you about Rupert's Rut and Peace deer calls. These are Todd Rupert's new calls this year. We have talked a lot about his turkey calls on our page. That is Rupert's Roost and Peace turkey calls. And his calls have been around now and are very well known, especially in Pennsylvania, but it's a growing business. A lot of western states are now using his calls, and we want to talk to you guys today about his two new calls.
In the launch of Rupert's Rut and Peace deer calls, they're offering two different 5-tone adjustable grunt tubes. One in all wood and the other in a flex tube. Alright, so let's get them out and see what they're all about. I've been excited about these for quite some time.
It's the only thing he's talked about for a long time.
Todd decided to reveal this endeavor at turkey camp this year, and when he revealed this to everybody, I just got sick to the stomach. So
if I would have been there, I could see his jaw drop.
Yeah. So when they dropped the reveal flag for the Rut and Peace line, I was extremely ecstatic. So
it's the first thing he told me about when he came home, because I wasn't feeling good that day, and he just came home and he's like, "Erin, wake up! You're never gonna guess what happened at turkey camp." So we're really excited about these.
Yes. Now, I love the look of the all wood call. So being all wood bodied from the body down into the tube itself, with the laser engraved Rut and Peace with the deer on the side of it, it just looks amazing. I mean, it's a showpiece in itself. And then he has his Rupert's Rut and Peace logo on both calls up on the body. So, but yeah, just like any grunt tube, they're put together body and tube. This one here, and you just pull apart to change your range. Just reed style, but the O-ring, and you can pull the O-ring to the top to change your tone to a high setting. We'll give you a high setting here. Go through the range of these calls and see what they do. So bring it up to the high setting, push your tube back on the body. Me personally, I never go that high, but it is capable of doing it. Kind of a fawn, almost like a fawn. A little too high for a doe bleed, but it will go that high. Back apart.
Here's what the flex tube sounds like on the highest setting.
That one's a little bit deeper. And if you pull the tube out further,
right, then you get a different
give
range.
A little bit of a deeper range. So, come down. I'm not going to go every click, but we'll go down. I'll go about mid-setting. That's usually about where I find a doe bleed to work pretty well. So, back together. Yeah, it sounds really good.
Yeah, that's what I like for here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we're Western Pennsylvania, so.
Oh. It's okay. That's really good. I like the croaky kind of tone to that too.
And then, of course, where everybody likes to go, pull a tube apart and drop that O-ring down to the bottom to where you're going to get your more mature or your buck grunts out of.
It sounds great.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
If you pull that tube out
about halfway, I do. Yeah, and then if you pull it out the whole way,
you can get it around pretty grunty. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So these calls would be really good for anything from Western Pennsylvania clearing your Midwest states or anywhere where you're dealing with a different caliber of deer. So
Absolutely.
you can hit any tone you need to hit. And,
Yep.
And between 1 or 2 calls.
Yeah.
Either or would get you a deer in any state you're hunting.
Yep.
One downfall with any kind of grunt tube that you might have in the past, and you're not going to avoid with a tube like this, there is no sliding style to the reed. Being a sliding O-ring, manually O-ring, if the reed gets wet, the reed's going to stick, and the grunt itself will essentially be about useless. But this thing utilizes a pretty easy concept to tear apart. You can take the wedge apart, pull the reed out, dry everything up, put the reed and wedge back together, O-ring back on, stuff it back into the tube, everything wedges back together, put the tube back together, and before you know it, you're back in business. So, easy to come apart, O-ring seal in the middle, keeps the reed internally nice and dry. That way if you have it hanging from the lanyard inside your coat, it should be staying dry. On bad weather scenarios, different humidities, things like that, the reed starts to stick, you're apart, have it apart, stuff back together in that time, you're back hunting.
So with these deer calls, you're going to be able to use them for a wide variety of grunts that deer use in the woods in real life scenarios. So bucks are going to have a few different grunts that they use on a regular. So all season, deer are going to be using a contact grunt or a social grunt. So those are typically just their daily communication with each other. A lot of the times it's does communicating with their fawns, does communicating with the rest of the herd, bucks communicating with other bucks, and so on and so forth. So with that, it's just a short grunt, nothing exaggerated. It's just short and sweet, just talking from one deer to another deer.
Contact grunt.
Right. Another one that they use, and this will be in the rut. So, or like you could use this probably early season as well. There might be a few does that come into heat early. This is your trailing grunt. And what this is whenever you have a buck on either the trail of a doe or he's looking for a doe. So this one's going to be a little bit more exaggerated. And we can go into another video of how to do these types of grunts. But for time's sake, we'll do that in a different video. So this grunt you're going to be using either early season or during peak rut. You could even use it later in the season, but you don't want to use it like too early in the fall.
I tend to hear that trailing grunt more so after they come off their first lockdown.
Yeah.
And they're out looking for another hot doe. You'll hear that trailing grunt a little bit more when they get on that other hot doe they're looking for. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard it a lot last fall.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to be your tending grunt. So your tending grunt is when your buck has a doe locked down. It takes usually a couple days before he's going to let her go to make sure that he's bred her and no other buck is going to get to her. So this grunt is either to establish dominance to other bucks in the area, or he's really frustrated with her. She keeps trying to get up and get away from him. He's just really frustrated. So this one's going to be more drawn out, more kind of, I don't want to say aggressive, but in a sense, yes, it is
a little more stern.
A little bit more aggressive, stern. But then you're going to move into the real aggressive grunt, and that is the buck growl, or some case you call it a roar. Most of the time when I hear like someone say roar, I hear of a red stag. I don't know if you've ever heard one, but it's wild. But Nick heard a buck roar for the first time in Ohio last year.
Yeah, it was my first time in person. It was just outrageous. I was sitting in a stand, and there was other guys out there at camp with me that week, and I started texting around, and I was like, hey, this woods is either haunted or this deer got hit by a car and something is really wrong. But it was definitely
intense.
a sensation. Yeah, it was intense. It was something that I until you experience it, it's just kind of unbelievable. You wouldn't even think it's real. You heard somebody trying to call that and mimic that you would think they were crazy to do it or even try it. And but no, it's a real thing, and it means something to them. And I'm sure there's a way that you could utilize that. And I've never personally done it, but
there are certain
difference.
scenarios that you would want to use that. If you have like a bully buck that's around and he responds well to aggression, or if he's bossing other bucks around, like that would be probably a good scenario to use a call like that.
Yeah, growl or even a tending grunt. So.
Yeah, and it's really drawn out, really just exaggerated in that sense.
Yeah, that tending grunt might actually be good from that pre-rut into a lockdown, where when you have a buck that's still trying to find a doe, you can utilize that tending grunt to bring a little more aggressive deer to you, thinking that you got a doe that's held up and hot, and he wants to come in and try and fight for her. And we've had quite a few aggressive deer. The deer I took in Pennsylvania last year was an aggressive deer. The year before that, and the year that I got him, which we can get to that here later. But something like a tending grunt or a buck roar definitely would trigger a deer like that to pique his interest to come in and at least look at what's going on, see what's going on, see what kind of does are around, if there's anything going on that he needs to address, or if he wants to try and steal a show. So
yep. And that's when we get into our snort wheeze. So on Todd's calls, there is not a snort wheeze tube on it, but they're so easy to make just with your hands. I do it all the time, and it definitely gets attention from deer in the area. I mean, you don't want to use it when a deer's close in because you can easily get spotted, but I'll literally just take my hand and cup it a little bit and just like blow out like with my bottom lip and just go.
That's what Sue was doing with my Pennsylvania deer last year.
Yeah.
Which kind of it felt like it blowed apart, but it really didn't. A good grunt sequence and a snort wheeze like that's what made him commit to wanting to check it out. So, but these calls are definitely capable of getting you through any one of them calling sequences. And you're going to get, if you ask 10 different guys what they do in a deer woods as far as calling, blind calling, calling when there's a deer in eye shot, anything like that, or if you've got a buck trailing a doe, you're going to get 10 different responses. So it's going to be a matter of what you like to do or what you find works for you. But we're here to tell you, after looking at these and dealing with these here on a first time basis, I think they're going to hit every tone you need to hit to try and fool a deer or get a deer into you.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, as Aaron was saying, there are plenty of different calls that you can utilize in the hunting woods. And Rupert's Rut and Peace deer calls are going to get you there. I'm going to say from personal experience, you can use, this is from my own personal experience, use calling sparingly. So I'm going to be one of the many guys that says blind calling is a certain time, certain thing, scenario. So I feel blind calling is utilized best whenever you're on a parcel, you know how deer travel, you know their routine, you kind of know their staging areas, their feeding areas, bedding areas, things like that. And you know that at a certain time or a certain point of late fall or late October, early November, you know there's going to be bucks skirting bedding areas. That is whenever I find a time to utilize maybe a blind call, rattling horns, sit and wait it out. I just do a couple contact grunts, maybe a little bit more aggressive end side of things. Hit the rattling horns together, give it a few minutes, see who comes trolling through to see what's going on, things like that. Mm-hmm. That being said, plenty of guys are afraid when they're busted by a deer, their hunt's over. So I'm going to get to how a call hunt helped me on that. Last year in Pennsylvania, the Sunday hunt we had for archery, You were at a baby shower.
Yep.
So I hunted a morning. It took probably 3 weeks. I waited 3 weeks to hunt my stand. There's a bedding area on the side of an old logging cut, and the winds were wrong. That day comes up, Sunday hunt. Aaron, the kids are, the oldest kids went to the baby shower. Younger kids, we sent them off to Hannah's house. I hit the deer woods, and that morning was on fire. I hit the woods, get out there. I feel like a little bit late. Maybe I shouldn't be going in the stand. It's kind of on the edge of bedding. It's between some food plots and bedding, things like that. I kind of weasel in. I figured, heck with it. We're here. We're going in. Go in. Get up in the tree. It breaks day. I'm set up. I'm ready to go. And the woods just comes alive. They start crashing down through. About 6 or 8 does come up and a little bastard buck. But whenever they come down through that woods, I can see a buck we called Abe coming down through. And Abe's a big boy. He's an impressive deer for a Western Pennsylvania farm buck. And I seen him when they broke the timber line and all them does were running. He was chasing a doe. And when they got within 35 yards or so of me, I'm on the edge of this bedding area, I'm thinking, perfect, they're going to work their way down in front of me. I'll get a shot at Abe. Not the case. They get mixed up and running around. It was low light, not too early, but it was enough chaos that I lost them. I'm looking around, couldn't find Abe. I heard a grunt below me. I look down, and there's this little
yearling.
A little basket rack, little scrap rack. He was running with them, and I'm thinking, man, that's not the deer that I saw. I know there was a bigger buck come running down through. I start thinking I'm going crazy. Then I heard him grunt. And you know whenever you hear mature deer grunt, it stands your hair up. I mean, he brings it from beneath the diaphragm.
Yeah.
And he grunted, and so I'm bow ready, deer all around me. I'm ready to make my shot if I need to. And he grunted, and he's up on the log cut behind me. So by the time I got turned around, I had about one shooting lane. He was through it. The show was over. He starts up the hillside behind me, and behind me was Aaron's stand. So it's about 80 yards on top of the hill, something like that. 80 yards up top. He works his way up across there. That works across the logging cuts, and it's in other bedding areas, neighbors' property, things like that. And Abe was known to frequent the neighbors' properties. Okay. Fast forward to evening hunting. She's at a baby shower. I'm thinking, you know what? He ran into the bedding on the top side. I'm going to go home, get changed up. It was cold in the morning, so I get out of the heavy layers, late season layers, get some warmer gear on because it warmed up that day. Jump in my stand, jump in her stand. I figure I'm going to jump in Aaron's stand. Abe will come out with them does tonight when they come out to feed. I was shot at. Abe did not come out. That evening was absolutely dead. I go from the best morning of hunting of my life to an absolute dead afternoon. One yearling come up through early in the evening. She fed up underneath the stand. There's some acorns, things like that. Staging area behind me. She works her way out. It's starting to get not late, not dark, nothing like that, but it's later in the day than you care to wait. And we usually have many deer staging up at this point in the day. So I'm just kind of get my phone out, see how Aaron and the girls are doing at the baby shower. Okay. I catch movement out from the bedding side, and here comes a deer. Can't really see what it is yet. It's working its way up through the open timber. It's kind of open timber at that point, right? And it's skirting high. So there's a cornfield. It was a cornfield that year.
Yeah.
Last year, yes. And this deer's skirting its way up at an angle and going to work its way to the cornfield above me out of bow range. I look out across the hill. I get the binoculars out. I'm looking. Here it's a buck. We never actually named him. We had him frequently on camera and running with Abe.
Yeah.
But he come out alone. And I'm just in the stand, going at it, watching him, making sure, watching what he's doing, things like that. I get my grunt tube out, hit it. He looks down, he acknowledges he hears it. He wants nothing to do with it. Zero care in the world. Okay, so brings me one of my first points. At that point, and it's to each his own. If you're on a personal property or a property that you have established and you're working at and you have a target deer, if he acknowledges you, flicks his tail, gives you all the body language you need to know that he heard you, and he doesn't care, I personally feel you maybe leave him go and play him out a little more. It's a chess game. You got to play him again. If you feel comfortable trying it again, see what he does. If he acknowledges you again, keeps going. I wouldn't over pressure him, but okay. So he acknowledges me, shakes his tail. starts moving. At this point, I'm standing in a stand. I got my bow ready, hit the grunt tube. He acknowledges me, keeps going. He's 45 yards up through the timber, no shot. At this point, where any other man would think his hunt was over, right underneath me in the mix of this buck coming up out of the bedding area is a doe. Well, she decides to look straight up.
Busted.
And busts me wide open out of this tree. And she blows the place wide open. And there is no worse sound than a doe that just blows the woods apart.
Yep.
And at that point, my stomach drops and it's over. I'm like, okay, I got a good deer up on top of the hill. He knows I'm here. He acknowledged it. And she blew my hunt apart. In the mix of all the chaos, I look up and see what he's doing. He looks back down. He sees a deer standing there, a doe, that's upset looking at me in a tree, but she blew the place wide open. He heard the contact grunt that I made to him before that, and in his brain, during rut, we were early, when was the shower? I can't remember.
November 7th, I think.
Yeah, so first week in November. It's November 7th, right. So first week of November. So in his brain, he must have been thinking, okay, he heard the contact grunt. He wanted nothing to do with another deer, so he was a little more docile. Maybe wasn't as aggressive as some bucks may be. And when he heard that in his brain, he heard a doe blow. Okay, there's a buck harassing a doe that she doesn't care to deal with him. He kind of hesitated for a brief second, and then he wanted to continue on his way. And at that point, I figured, well, the snort wheeze, that'll get him triggered that there might be a younger deer down here. Maybe he'll want to confront him. And that's what I did, just kind of in my hand, just threw a snort wheeze out there, hoping for the best. His tail flicked, and he beelined right for that doe. He knew that she was, at that point in his brain, he knew she was hot. There was a buck on her, and he was ready to go. So he comes straight down. I had to wait for my window. He got behind the waterfall rows. I got my draw in. He come out about 15 yards, and the rest was history on that deer. So I think it's all situation dependent. There's times that you should and shouldn't. Now, if you're public land, you don't have much scouting in, you're out and about, hang a set, you're on a trail, you're on a transition area, you use e-scouting to utilize your time best. You get in, you got a deer skirting some bedding or running a ridge top, you want to blow a grunt at him. He acknowledges you, flicks his tail, keeps going. You know this is your last sit for the day or for the week. Hey, hit him a few times. What's going to hurt? He's leaving anyway. So,
right.
But yeah, so it's definitely a tool, a vital tool in any archer's, in any bow hunter's pack. So, yeah. And if you're going to do it, if you know Todd Rupert's Roost and Peace turkey calls, quality and ease of use, and they've stormed the turkey woods for the last few years, and they are phenomenal calls. So they're not going to endorse anything any less. So these calls are going to take it to the next level in the deer woods for you. So I am super, super excited about this. Like, this is going to be.
We're just counting down the days at this point. So till we're back in a tree. So.
Yep.
Okay, that's a wrap. There you have Todd Rupert's Rut and Peace deer calls, the flex tube and the all wooden tube. And you can purchase these either online at Rupert's Roost and Peace turkeycalls.com, or if you're local here in Pennsylvania,
Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Western Pennsylvania, around the Yukon area. You can also buy them at Creek Archery. These calls are made in the USA, and they're just really great quality, made right here. So you can't get any better than that. Support a small business and get one of his calls for your hunting season this year. And again, on his packaging, listen to the Outdoor Call radio app. That's Dan Young's show. He's a great guy, and he has a lot of great topics he covers on his show, a lot of great giveaways he does regularly. So check him out. You won't be disappointed. No,
hunting, fishing, anything outdoors. And like she said, he gives tons and tons of stuff away.
Yeah.
From knives to boots, socks, you name it. Just
hunts.
All you gotta do, yeah, hunts, fishing, thing. Just download the app, Outdoor Call radio app, and listen to him every day. It's a loop of his shows, and he'll tell you what to do, and it's a great show. So,
Right. All right. Again, I'm Aaron. This is Nick, and this is Knocked Outdoors.
Till next time, stay outdoors.